Welcome to the Courage to Live podcast. My name is Josh Bitsko, and I'm a retired police captain from Las Vegas with 24 years of experience. Currently, I travel the country and I teach people about courage, resilience, and leadership. I'm joined today with my co-host and wife, Jenna.
Hi.
And in today's podcast, we're going to talk about a couple of things that we've actually had a lot of discussions about, and that's character versus reputation. But before we get into it, I think we should talk about the last couple of weekends that we've had and how much fun we've been having.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Well, yeah, it's funny in the role as your kids grow, they all play sports and have activities, and I pretty much feel that we are Ubers for kids to sporting events and practices.
Yes. And what's even better is coaches have now decided that weekday practices are not enough. We need to have weekend practices as well. So our Friday and Saturday nights have been driving kids to practices, and then Saturdays and Sundays at tournaments.
Yeah. And last weekend, we were at a volleyball tournament all day and that evening.
Yeah. From 9 to 9.
Yeah. And I think we even snuck in like a date an hour and a half between games at a restaurant.
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah.
So
we had our laptops with us, and we were working in between games, and that's our life now, is sitting at kids' sporting events. And part of me is like, this is so great for their, mental health and development and keeping them out of trouble. And then the other part of me is like, what if they just don't even continue playing sports? Like, what am I doing?
What will we do with ourselves?
I don't know.
I suspect when they are finally done with sports or, moving out, we'll probably miss it.
Probably.
But maybe not.
I'm not going to miss driving from multiple locations in a tournament because they're so unorganized. I won't miss that.
Yeah.
Across town. That was insane.
Yeah. We put more miles on our car back and forth between practices and then trying to cook dinner. And it's wild. It's a crazy life.
It is. And I'm still, for everyone on YouTube, I'm still in the throes of my midlife crisis. I turned 40 this year and decided I was going to get bangs a few weekends ago. So curb bangs are in full swing.
Yeah, I love them.
Thank you.
So character versus reputation. And we've had a lot of discussions about this lately. And it's something that we keep talking about and trying to like sort out some of the differences, even doing a little research on it. And we both thought it would make a good podcast to talk about because, sometimes we get very leadership focused, or we're talking about resilience or mental health or even critical incidents. I think the interesting thing about character and reputation is it really affects all parts of your life. Mm-hmm. And so before we really get into it, we'll talk about like what they are and, how they impact your life, even both personally and professionally. And so when you think about reputation, that is external. That is what people think about you, what they say about you. And, in today's day and age, in social media and, group texts and all of that and immediate information, I think that does have an impact on reputation, right? Is, let's say I'm a sergeant and I make a bad decision whatever decision I make isn't the best leadership move that I could make. That can pass around my department very quickly, right? Just, did you hear what Bitsko did? And then it just keeps going. And it can be easy to really focus on that reputation side of what people say and how they view you. And we've talked about this on other podcasts before, is like, really worrying about what people think of you. But I also think that reputation can be a good thing when you think about it. Your reputation really is based on your words and actions, how other people perceive you, how they talk about you. Especially in any company, because, a lot of my experiences in a police department, everyone says a big police department is like high school, and it really is. But I think any company is like that. I mean, you've worked for private companies that very similar, right? It's the people talking and, gossiping. Yeah, that was big on Metro. But you had that experience other places too.
Yeah.
And So it can be negative, but it can also be a good thing too. I think we you made a joke and we talked about it that I had a reputation. It could be very, what was the word you used? Very polarizing was what you said.
I I was thinking of a swear word. I was like, did I say that?
No, no,
Okay,
YouTube will nerf our video
I know.
if we say the word that you were thinking.
Yeah.
But I have a decent idea of what you were thinking there. But I could be polarizing, and there were people that really liked me and wanted to work for me, and they worked for me multiple times in their careers, and then there were people that didn't. And but I did have a reputation of, I didn't have a problem holding people accountable. I didn't have a problem having the hard conversations professionally, at least, and sitting people down. And I was very involved as a leader, and that helped me at times. You're always going to have problem employees, and I kind of realized that sometimes these problem employees, they really weren't a problem when they came to work for me, and I really didn't have to do anything because my reputation preceded me. And so that can be a good thing. But I also found with that, sometimes people had trouble opening up to me because I was seen as at times prickly, I think was one of the
Good
words.
word.
That's a nicer word,
Yeah.
one that's not going to nerf us on YouTube. And so that's something that I realized and had to work at. But also the realization when it comes to reputation that you don't always have a lot of control over that too. There are just going to be people that you may make the right decision, but it's not the popular decision, and it's going to upset people. And
Or you make decisions in your personal life or whatever that people decide your reputation is this. Your reputation is a party girl or boy, or your reputation, because you go out with your friends and drink on the weekend. So you're a party girl or you're whatever. And they're going to decide that that's your reputation because they see that outward action. Right.
Mhm,
And you're wild or you're whatever.
mhm.
So I think people reputation is important. It's what people see on the outside. But like you said, there can also be some negative connotations to it.
Well, yeah, I had an experience when I was a new captain over the strip where I was told by my bosses, "Hey, I want you to come up with a plan to do 12-hour shifts." And I hadn't even had a chance to visit my first briefing before I was given that direction. And so I sat down, you and I looked at crime and scheduling and all of that to come up with a plan for that. And so then I'm going into briefings, introducing myself. Hey, I'm the new captain here. Nice to meet you. This is something that, we're going to be doing. And like, I had always had this mindset that I'm not telling people that this was an order. It's, I'm going to make it mine, get buy-in and all of that. And it was a very unpopular decision for most of, the area command. And I tried to sell it like, well, you're going to get more days off, but you have to work 12-hour shifts. And, the union got involved, and it really, like, that hurt my first 6 months as a captain. And it didn't happen. It wasn't, ended up not being feasible. And, we had to go through the union and take it to a vote, but that hurt my reputation. And I, again, was kind of backed into a corner to get it done, and was really trying to put lipstick on a pig when it came to that. But, I had to then rebuild relationships with my employees because of that whole scenario. And, it had nothing to do necessarily with my character. It really was just, hey, this is a change. And, the only thing cops hate more than change is what we're doing now. So trying to make a big change, especially before I built the credibility with, the people that work for me, that made it a little difficult.
Do you think reputation can be repaired? Like if you have a bad reputation, do you think that can be repaired?
I do, but it takes a lot of work because the nature of reputation is it's group, it's a crowd, and not just people that work for you or that are around you. It is, especially today with, like I said earlier, group text and social media and all of that. Like it so many people know so much more about you than 30 years ago. when that wasn't a case. It was only firsthand knowledge, right? There was still gossiping, still people talking, but I just don't think it was at this level. But it can. It just that takes time and patience. And a lot of people, they are so focused on what other people think about them that it really just like can crush them. I've seen that too. I've seen people that are like, "Hey, I heard that someone said this about me as a leader. What do you think? And what do I need to do?" And they just kind of fixate on it rather than be consistent with your actions and just realize over time that can change. Um, like when I first promoted to sergeant, I I had I was young and I had an idea of what a supervisor, what a leader was, and that changed, obviously over time for me on what I valued as a leader. But when I first came in, like I was very hard on reports. Like, hey, you can't end this sentence in a preposition, or like not specifically that, but things like that. And my squad was like, oh my gosh, this guy is a hole, or whatever word that you didn't want to say that they were saying.
Very
And
nice guy.
very nice guy. And I think, I had a senior guy on my squad come and like give me a heads up, like, hey, this is what people are saying. And, I think that maybe you can cool it on, say, the reports. And I appreciated him for that. It was hard to hear. And I was able to kind of change how I acted, but it took time, and I think to a point I always kind of had that reputation of being a little hard on my people at times. I definitely softened up as I got older and promoted and had more life experience. But so to long answer for a short question is yes, you can if you're patient and you're consistent.
And I think you can if you are working on your character. So let's talk about character and how that's different from reputation, because I think you can change people's opinions. And if you have a negative reputation, I think you can change that. But to me, the only way to do that is by um, building your character in a positive way.
Yeah, and well, reputation is external, right? It's people's opinions of you. Sometimes you have control of it, sometimes you absolutely don't. Character is internal. Character is those consistent actions, small or big, that, are you the person that does the right thing or are you the person that does the wrong thing, right? Character itself is neutral. It's you have a good character, negative character.
Well, it's your internal values, right?
Yeah.
It's who you are to your core as a human being.
Yeah. And, character is quieter. It is, it's small and big. And it's those small daily choices or these big choices that you make because it's the right thing. And again, you have to even identify what those values are in yourself, right? And really sit down and, we've talked about it before, is sit down and writing out, having a list of values and identifying which ones are important to you. And that can be a guiding light for making a decision that is in line with your values. It doesn't mean it's always going to be the right decision, like given situationally, but it will be the right decision internally for you. And you'll be able to live with yourself. That I had this, it was years ago, but it stuck with me. Um, a guy asked a cop, like, well, why did you do it that way? He's like, well, I have to shave every morning. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, to shave, I have to look myself in the mirror. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror. And I think that, if you are making those decisions based on your values, that is how you establish the character that you want to have. And that's why, back with your earlier questions, can you change your reputation? Yeah, if you, like you said, if you build a solid character, then, and you are living to that and you are living to those values over time, people are going to see. They're going to see that you're the person that always acts with integrity or acts with courage. You can value security or intelligence or whatever those things are. That is going to affect your reputation because you can only you can only worry what people think or put out say the right things without doing the right things for so long, because you're spending, any job, you're spending time with people every day. Your character will be revealed.
Well, and how often do you see it revealed? I mean, we watched this over and over and over again. Like, and so when your character does not match your reputation, then when people see that, there's a conflict. If you have a reputation of being just this everybody's friend, a stand-up person, always coming to work on time, you take other people's work, you're just this have this reputation for this stand-up person. But then when there's conflict or a really important decision to be made and you waffle or you choose the cowardly route or you don't make a decision at all, or it when people see that and they're like, wait a second, the reputation of this person was completely opposite of what I'm seeing now when it really matters. Well, that's where it comes into play of building your character into who you want to be as a person. And I think that when you do that, then your reputation will match that just naturally, right? Like you're not going to be in conflict if you your character, you're making decisions that align with that and who you are and your values. If you're doing that, your reputation is going to build itself in a positive way.
Yeah, and you mentioned something there that crisis reveals great character. Like it's easy in the small decisions or, the decisions that don't matter a lot to make the right one. But in crisis, in the big things, that reveals your character because we've all been in situations where the right decision may have negative impacts on me or, like whether it's I'm going to run up there and breach a door, but that decision is going to put myself in a lot of peril, or I'm going to, you know, hold this person accountable, but that person's my friend and it's going to affect the relationship. Um, Crisis, even personal crisis and personal in relationships. I'm going to have this conversation, but it can impact my peace or my daily life. Those crisis, that's where your character is revealed and you can't hide that. Whereas a lot of people can, control to a point their reputation.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have those crises, I don't know,
Crises.
crises. There you go. Listen, it's been a long week and it's not that far into the week today. Um, but when you have those crises, you can't do anything but make the big decision, and it could be the wrong one.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be counter to your character, or it could be counter to the reputation that you put forth for people
Mm.
because your character doesn't match, right? And
That used to get under my skin so bad working at the police department, as having leaders who, put out there that they stand up for their people, they have their people's back. I mean, how many times did both of us see that? I experienced it personally multiple times. Have your back. I'm this, brave, stalwart leader that is just going to stand up for my people. And then when it really mattered, when me as a leader, when I needed something from my leadership and it was really important and I'm in there pleading my case, for them to back down and say, oh yeah, no, sorry, we're not going to help you with that. We're not going to do that. That is just like it's such a whiplash of, I thought you were this person, but then when it actually came down to it, you really are not. And for me, I mean, you mentioned in personal life, like even in friendships, you can be this, purport yourself to be just this really good person, this really nice person that will do anything for anybody, fun, life of the party. But then when it comes down to it, to like, being genuine or having a hard conversation, when you can't do that, well, then your reputation and your character are not matching up. And that's really hard for anyone to form a genuine connection with you or a genuine friendship. Like, I've mentioned before, one of my core values is authenticity. And so, especially for me, when the reputation doesn't match the character, it's so hard. It's so inauthentic to me that I just I can't even like, I don't want anything to do with it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's hard to move past that.
Well, I think you brought up a really good point is when your character is completely different from your reputation, especially if it's, you have a really good reputation, but your character reveals otherwise. Like when you're around people and, how you make them feel, because ultimately, character is how you make people feel. Reputation is what they've heard about you. But character is when you're interacting with them, do they trust you? Do they want to, are you inspiring them even through your actions? Like a big part of leadership is do what you say you're going to do. And do you walk the walk and all those, cool leadership phrases in every leadership book that we've read. But when there's a conflict there, especially like I said, when this person is seen as a great leader, great person, and then their actions don't line up with that, that really breaks trust. And that's a really hard thing to overcome. And it's like, does your video match your audio? Like, is the words you're saying and what other people have said about you match what I'm seeing with my eyes? And I mean, yes, has there been times in my career when someone didn't have the best reputation, and then I worked for them, or they worked for me, or I interacted with them, and they surprised me, and maybe they worked on themselves since whatever happened that damaged their reputation. There are experiences, but there's far more experiences for me where somebody had a great reputation and then did something that like tarnished that in my eyes and how they acted. Like I had a sergeant, or yeah, no, a lieutenant. I was a sergeant, and I was in a meeting with another sergeant, and that lieutenant lied, like outright lied. And a lot of times, so someone you think they're lying, but you can't really prove it. It could be their perception. Oh, this was an outright lie that I knew it was. And for the rest of that, my interactions for the entire career, it's like I just don't trust this person. And that person had a great reputation, so I no longer trusted them with really anything because they proved to me their character. And but then comes the question of, okay, let's say you don't think you have the best reputation, or you really want to work on your character. Like, how do you do that? How can you improve your character over time? Because obviously reputation is important, but character is more important because it's also how you feel about yourself, right? It's how build confidence. Is I've been tested so many times with hard situations, and I've come through because I've made those decisions. And we already touched on this, but if you treat every decision, big or small, as almost like a test of your character or your values, then again, you're going to over time build that trust in the people around you, because character is ultimately how you make people feel when you interact with them.
Well, and you have to be able to identify those values that are important to you, and then make choices that live up to those values, that make choices that encompass and become those values, right? They your life is in alignment with the values that are important to your core. So for me, it's authenticity, it's courage, it's security, dash stability. And those are core values to me. So when I am living, and by the way, courage and stability are very conflicting. And so that's really hard for me at times. I really vacillate between those two. And so it's like, but when I'm living in alignment with those values and making choices based on those, so that, as you mentioned earlier, I can shave in the morning. Mm-hmm. I can look myself in the mirror and know that I'm in alignment and I'm doing my best to make those choices based on my core values. When I'm doing that, then I'm living authentically, and my reputation matches up to my character, right? So I think that's a first step, is identifying, and we've talked about that on the podcast multiple times, but identifying those core values. Mm-hmm. And then step 2 is making decisions, small or big, that are in alignment with those values.
For me, I've always valued courage, and I know we talked about that in a different context when it comes to on a different podcast. But how that always worked for me, especially when it came to character-based decisions, is if I felt like I didn't want to do something, like, oh, I don't want to have this conversation, I don't want to bring this employee and talk to him, it because I valued courage, that would help me push through and do it. And it was also a good litmus test of why don't I want to do this? Because I know that this could go south, which means even more that I need to do that thing. So in this context, I don't mean courage of getting shot at or, mortal like fear. I mean, even those day-to-day decisions. And I can tell you so many times, whether it was in abuse, neglect, internal affairs, even canine, it's like I had to do something. I had to make a decision. I had to counsel an employee. And internally, I'm like, I can just push that off until Monday and I'll have that conversation then. Or, try and give benefit of the doubt. I'm like, why am I doing that? Oh, because I don't want to have that conversation. And is that a courageous thing for me to do in this moment? So it always helped push me through because that is a value that I identified. And I did. I wanted my audio to match my video. I wanted to have a good reputation and also live up to that reputation when crises hit. Like, and again, there,
Well, it wouldn't be courageous otherwise, right? If your reputation was to be someone that was courageous and had integrity, and then when it came down to it, you didn't make the hard decisions and you didn't live with integrity. Well, that is in complete misalignment with your value of courage, right?
exactly. And if I want, if I wanted to have a good reputation, like if I want the people around me to really look at, if I wanted the people around me to really look at, this person is a good leader, this person is a courageous person, then where do I put my energy? And I think a lot of people make this mistake. They try to control the narrative on their reputation and say the right things when really you have to put your energy into being consistent in building that character, being consistent in living towards those values. And over time, your reputation will catch up.
But that's really hard and uncomfortable. And I think that's where people, yes, they put all their energy into their reputation and ego, right? And not into the internal part of it because it's hard and it's uncomfortable and it causes you to have to make different decisions maybe than you once made. It causes you, if you're a leader, to have to be a different kind of leader than the one you always have been. And I think that's really, people don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want to, they don't want to sacrifice their reputation to build their character.
Yeah, you're right. And the paradox there is, though, the more you focus on your reputation, the less energy you're putting towards your character, and the worse your reputation is going to get.
Correct.
So, again, you think, oh, I need to work on my reputation. I'm going to do that. But really, the only way to do that is just living by those core values. And we've talked a lot about, police department, police work in my experience, because that's it. But anywhere you work or in your family or in your relationships, I mean, I'll tell you how many times is, I'm in the middle of working, I'm recording podcasts, I'm editing, and Max, our son, is like, "Hey, can you go play basketball or go throw a football?" And I said, "Yes, I will later." I said, "I have to get this done." And then 3 hours later, it's, we're getting ready for dinner or whatever. And it's like, oh, I told him I had to do this. So I'm going to do it. Even if, in that moment, it's not something I want to do. But again, that's building trust and building character. So reputation extends beyond your work. I know that's what most people think, but I want to have a good reputation with our kids. I want them to think, oh, if I ask dad to do something, he's going to do it. And, or he's, going to make the right decisions for us and our family. Or if he says yes to something, he's going to follow through. And so I think you can apply these things to everywhere in your life. Is your character isn't just your work. It's your relationship. It's our relationship. It's a relationship with the kids. It's being a good friend and being present.
Yeah, I value that in friendships. If I say I'm going to do something, then I need to do it. If I say I'm going to be loyal, that means in every way, not just the good times, but also the hard times. It means having the hard. How many times have I said to you, after I've had a conversation with a friend or like texting back and forth, like I was really honest and I said this and I hope they're not mad, but that's for me it's important in friendships to for my audio to match my video,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously in every instance you've described, but also in friendships
Yeah.
because I value that in others. So I want to give that to other people in my friendships.
Because it is a value of yours, and you are a very loyal friend and very honest friend. And I think you can build relationships and connections with people on such a deep level because of that. And then you also know that it's going to really turn some people off. Some people don't want to hear the truth, right?
Yeah.
um, and for me, like, I'm the kind of friend, if you call to bury a body, I'm the guy. If you expect a text back within 5 to 7 business days, I may not be that guy. I'm the worst. And it's something I'm working on because, again, we're talking about reputation, and it's funny to say, but I tend to like, oh, I'll text him back later, and then I completely forget. And so I just thought that was kind of like a funny like anecdote. Like, I'm a loyal friend, but man, I'm a terrible texter.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, that whether it's leadership, friendship with your kids, bottom line is it builds trust. And that's really the only thing that builds connection because we talked about vulnerability building connection, but ultimately you have to be able to trust. And does vulnerability open the door for you to trust somebody? Yes. But like bottom line is your character and who you are at your core. If that matches, if your audio matches your video, we've said that a million times in this podcast, but that's what builds trust with anybody.
And looking at it from that lens, that's all character.
Yeah.
Like, you can say you're a good friend, try and have that reputation as a good friend, but really that is those one-on-one relationships. That is all character. Are you following up? Are you checking in? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we both had experiences where we've checked in on a friend because we hadn't talked to them in a while, and that was a point where they really needed us to, and we just had a feeling to do it. And those are character actions. So just like you can build character at work, you can in your personal relationships, and you can repair that as well by starting today, being consistent,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure your small decisions and your big decisions align with your values. Saying that I'm going to play basketball later with Max is seemingly a small decision in the big scope of our life, but it's not to him. So you making sure that if you say you're going to do something, that is a character choice, and that is a value of mine too, right? And so I think that we've kind of covered a lot of where this is going, and the difference between character and reputation both matter, but how to like get there.
Yeah. And like you said, starting small decisions, big decisions, identifying your core values, making the decisions that align with those. And ultimately, that can repair even a bad reputation. Your character can repair a bad reputation.
Just keep going.
Yep.
Well, thank you for listening today. If you like some of the things we talked about, you can find more in my book, The Courage to Live. It's available on Amazon. And if you like the podcast, please share it with a friend, leave a review, and thank you for spending time with us today.